So I'm going to be showing you some Matchbox models all throughout its entire history. Matchbox got started back in 1953 thanks to its founders Leslie and Rodney Smith, who combined their names to form Lesney. Lesney was the first owner of Matchbox. Matchbox was owned by 4 different companies in total, which we will get to in a little bit. What Matchbox was mainly focused on was affordability, collectability, and realism with their models. They wanted to be a little bit cheaper than their competitors at the time. This is, of course, in the 1950s. They also wanted to be able to fit the castings inside an actual Matchbox. As the story goes, I cannot confirm if it's a true story, but one of the founders' daughters went to school every day, and their teachers would only let them take a toy to school if it could fit inside a Matchbox. So one of the founders took it upon themselves to create a diecast car that could actually fit into said Matchbox, hence how the name Matchbox was born. Matchbox also really focused on collectability with their 1 through 75 range. So they built up their inventory of 75 unique models, decided to cap it off there. Then any new casting that was introduced into their line would replace a retired casting and take its number in the 1 through 75 range. They also focused on realism. They were very, very specific on being able to look at these real cars, these real vehicles, whether it's commercial vehicles, farming vehicles, just general trucks. And they really wanted to make sure they got all the proportions right. They were very, very focused on realism since the very, very beginning. So I'll quickly get into the 4 different owners of Matchbox. We have Lesney, again, formed by Leslie and Rodney Smith. Lesney ran from 1953, when the brand was first founded, up to 1982. In 1982, they did go bankrupt. They needed a new owner. Ownership was transferred over to Universal, a Chinese company. Universal owned the brand from 1982 to 1992. Then again, the brand had a new owner. Tyco took it over. Tyco ownership was from around 1992 to 1997. And our last and 4th owner, one of the largest toy giants in the modern age, Mattel, has owned them since 1997 through the present day. I'm recording this in January of 2025. So we'll kind of go through those different owners, go through a little bit of the history of the brand, how it kind of has changed over time. Some controversial series we'll get into, some realism, some quirky models as well. Sit back, relax, grab a beverage, and let's get settled in and start looking at some beautiful, beautiful castings. I absolutely love Matchbox and their brand, everything they do, from the realism to the charm, the character. Their British roots really shine with a lot of their models. So we will start off with my oldest Matchbox. If you can believe it, it's practically mint condition. This one here was created in 1956. That's right, it was engineered and manufactured back in 1956. It's absolutely insane that it has stayed in this good of a condition. This is the Bedford Low Loader. And again, I do have the original box as well. I acquired this at the Matchbox gathering back in 2024, July 2024 at the, forget the hotel name, but it was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which was just an unforgettable experience. I absolutely loved it. So it's really, really cool to have this preserved, to have the original packaging, and such a beautiful model that is over, almost 70 years old at this point, 1956. Almost 70 years. So it's just crazy to think about that it's lasted through all those decades. One of my prized possessions for sure. So we'll move on to my second oldest piece before we get into my Creative Options thread organizer. This is the Iron Fairy Crane. So as we can see here, these wheels are commonly referred to as the regular wheels, or the regular wheels era, which lasted from 1953, when the brand was founded, up to 1969. That is a very pivotal year, as Hot Wheels came out in 1968, became an international success, and Matchbox needed to pivot. Therefore, they removed these regular wheels and in place put on Superfast wheels, low friction wheels that can compete with Hot Wheels. But before we get into that, let's take a closer look at this model. It does have this very nice moving feature. I absolutely love this. When I was growing up, and I guess even still to this day, I really loved playing those crane games, like claw machines. And for some reason, this model just reminds me of that, with the really nice crane. It's just a really beautiful piece, a lot of character, and the color scheme is great as well. We have that beautiful, beautiful red with this kind of yellowish gold up on top. So we will then move into the Superfast era. This is a Porsche 910, very sentimental piece in my collection. It has this beautiful rose color. And as we can see here, we have the different wheels. So again, Hot Wheels came out in 1968. Hot Wheels was an international success. They launched the Sweet 16, having castings such as the Diora, Fleetside, Custom Camaro, Custom Corvette, Beatnik Bandit. These castings with their ultra shiny, beautiful Spectra Flame were just an instant hit. The entire world became obsessed with them. And I mean, Hot Wheels really knew what they were doing from a marketing side of things as well. Matchbox simply would have fallen behind if they didn't make this pivot. So they went ahead and added on these Superfast wheels. So low friction, they're easier to roll across your desk. Here, I'll compare it to the Iron Fairy crane. I mean, we barely get any rolling with that one, and Superfast, as the name implies, is super fast. I mean, this really helped compete with Hot Wheels during the 70s when these were full steam ahead. They did release some more quirky designs as well. We'll actually get to one here in a second. But just really beautiful, really vibrant colors, and the packaging for these as well. Still in that sort of Matchbox shape. The boxes are very, very vibrant, beautiful colors on it, beautiful design. It's all just really, really impressive what Matchbox was able to do. And they were able to, get with the times of the likes of Hot Wheels coming out with such gorgeous models that had such a good playability to them. It was just nothing like any model car brand had ever produced in the entire history of diecast manufacturing. So that is the Porsche 910. We'll move on to that quirkier model that I mentioned. This is the Team Matchbox. It is missing an engine here. Just love the shape of this one as well. Again, that beautiful red color. I mean, you just don't see paint like this anymore. You really need to experience it in person. If you haven't seen a Superfast model in the flesh, I highly, highly recommend it. It won't disappoint. As the kind of cheesy saying goes, they really don't make it like they used to. So having pieces that are a little bit older in your collection, I think really, really helps diversify your collection, and just adds that unique charm and character that the Matchbox Superfast are known for. So we then have this sight dumper, really mint condition. I mean, as mint as you can. I would argue nothing is perfectly mint, but we're talking near mint with this sight dumper. Again, just incredible how preserved it is. The fact that it's been living for so long. I have my spreadsheet in front of me, actually. Let me confirm the release date, or the debut year. This one was 1977, so we're into the late 70s now. And it is just gorgeous. I absolutely love this one. We will move on to the next one here. This is a nice little camper trailer. And I believe this one was released several decades later in the 90s. However, the original casting was released in the late 1970s. I want to say 1978. Yes, that is confirmed with my spreadsheet up in front of me. So this one is a 1978 debut. However, this specific color variant was released, I believe, in the late 90s. And you can hook this up to a tow hook on the castings that have a tow hook, which is cool. And it also has this really nice door that they engineered. This little mechanism on the bottom is what actually opens the door. And you can go ahead and actually look inside there. So we'll move on to the next one here. Please put this back, make sure it doesn't fall, bear with me. There we go. Next one is the Land Rover 90 with a very nice Park Ranger livery. This casting has gotten a lot of love. There are dozens of different color variants of this one. Some of them do have suspension as well. This one in particular does not, as you can see, but just a timeless design. very boxy, as any Land Rover really is. I mean, older Land Rovers, that is, the newer ones are a little bit more rounded, but just very boxy design. It's almost, this is kind of what I picture of what a, when you're a kid, you think of these car designs, something really basic like this. It's almost like a kid drawing. Gorgeous silhouette. I mean, timeless, just an impressive presence as well, not only in 1/64 scale die-cast form, but also when you see one in real life. So this next one was also acquired from the Matchbox gathering back in 2024. This is the FJ Holden delivery van wearing a produce livery. Beautiful green color. And I always like to, die-cast cars really allow for you to play around with your imagination. Think about, where is this vehicle traveling to? What is it doing? What is the driver like? And I totally picture just this in some sort of farm setting, right? It's got produce. It's maybe driving from a farm to a grocery store to deliver that fresh produce to sell to its consumers. So next up is this Mercedes tractor. We are now into the 90s, so we are past the Universal era, or just at the tail end of the Universal era rather, and we are slowly getting into the Tyco era, then Mattel in the late 90s. So again, this one does have a tow hook. Really, really cool design. Again, a boxy, overall boxy design language. Love these big fat tires too. Just any of these castings that are a little bit more I like to use the word clanky or clunky. Just really nice tactile experience. It feels really cool in the hand. Doesn't feel as hefty as, say, a larger Hot Wheels casting, for example, say like a Dairy Delivery or a Volkswagen Drag Bus. But these kind of clankier ones, the wheels aren't sitting in there perfect. Still has just that really nice tactile experience, which I personally really like. We'll then move on to this Volkswagen Beetle Concept 1. And this was my first ever, actually this one as well as this jet ski we'll get to in a second, my first ever diecast toy show purchase. I got this one back in May of 2021. Classic 90s design, very clean, clean look. And the Beetle was obviously, doesn't get more 2000 era than the Beetle. A lot of rounded, front fenders, a lot of rounded hoods and rounded rear ends. That was just really in with what the styling of automotive design was at the time. So here we have the MGF 1.8i. Again, just another clean, sort of mid to late 90s casting. Looks very roomy in there as well, a lot of space, which is cool to see when we're talking about a shrunken down 1/64 scale vehicle. And I do like the beach. My wife and I love going out and enjoying the sunshine, so I do have some beach-themed castings. This one is called Watercraft with Trailer. And this was that other first diecast purchase that I mentioned from a diecast toy show. I've been going to diecast toy shows ever since this first one. I believe I just went to my 40th. Diecast toy shows are a great time. It's great to be around, your people, right? You're able to bond with other fellow collectors, talk about your collections with them, talk about the latest releases that have been leaked, etc., etc. So this one's a cool piece. This is the Volkswagen Beetle convertible, and it actually has the 2000 stamp up in the front. These were stamped on the first 10,000 units ever produced for a period of time in, I want to say the late 90s to early 2000s. This is the only one in my collection actually where I have it. It also seems kind of confusing because it's a 2000, but is the first 10,000 produced. But in case you didn't know that, anytime you see that symbol, you know that you have one of the first 10,000 produced. And I love how roomy this one looks as well. Just a lot of space in there. Beautiful plastic design. I mean, plastic, you get a little bit more detail than, say, casted metal. And I really appreciate the steering wheel especially. I mean, you just don't see them as detailed like that anymore. I believe the term that other collectors use is a tombstone steering wheel, where it's just a big blob up in the front. So I really do appreciate these older castings with slightly more detail. And next up we have this Rapids Raft. This was another diecast toy show purchase. And then we get to my all-time favorite car, both in real life and in 1/64 scale, the Audi TT Mark 1. I do prefer the version with no spoiler. This one does have a spoiler, but beautiful colorway. You can also kind of see that pearlescent look on the exterior paint there. And I really love that tan interior. It just all comes together so beautifully. Such a gorgeous execution of my personal favorite car. So again, just look at that. Great paint. These are $1 models. It's crazy to see how gorgeous that looks for what some would just say a silly toy car. Obviously, these mean much more to us fellow collectors. I know they certainly mean more to me. It kind of goes beyond the toy car, right? I'm very passionate about art and design as well. I see these as little sculptures. They're little works of art. Not only that, but it takes the designers and these diecast companies over a year of planning and execution from the time they think of that initial idea to the time that it's actually out on the pegs. Just really cool stuff. It's awesome to be a diecast collector and have so much history to learn about, to understand, and to know where things are going with upcoming releases and new products dropped and new series and retired series, and understanding what the brand is thinking. Of course, the latest advancement within Matchbox seems to be the trend towards making more EVs. Matchbox, since the very beginning, has been focused on realism. Well, what do we see more and more on the roads now? We see EVs, and that is very much reflected in what Matchbox produces, in the current era that we are in. So that's just a duplicate. I have two of those. I also have the very first release of this Audi TT Mark 1 casting. This was a Germany-only release back in 1999. Love that paintwork on this one as well. And this one does have suspension, which again really just adds to that play value, that tactile experience that I was mentioning earlier. Really love the suspension. I typically don't like moving parts, as we're going to get to in a second. I don't like the large gaps where the actual moving part is. Plus, the color matching can be a little rough. The moving part generally needs to be a plastic part, while the rest of the casting, being called a casting, of course, is metal. And the issue is it's hard to color match the painted metal with the color of the plastic that went through the injection molding process, which we'll get to in a second. So that is my all-time favorite. The red variant I have up off screen here to the right is my favorite color variant of this particular casting, but the silver and the dark gray are exquisite as well. So this is that moving parts I was talking about. This is the Nissan Xterra. I believe this was a 2001 release. Let me confirm that on the spreadsheet in front of me. Bear with me. Nissan Xterra is a 2001 debut. This particular variant was released back in 2019. And so this is what I mean with see how the color match is a little bit off? The trunk is a little bit lighter than the painted metal on the side of the car. And you just have this big gap. You see from the silhouette side, the profile view here, we have just very uniform, very cohesive seams. And then you turn to the back and just have this big massive gap that I just don't really like the look of. I get there's the playability and the play value and again, that tactile experience, but as someone who really prefers just clean, beautiful design, it just bugs me enough to not really be too interested with this particular line. So we'll move on to the Volkswagen Microbus. This is the kind of futuristic version. There is the Volkswagen ID Buzz that just came out recently in real life. 1/1 scale we're talking here. I believe Hot Wheels did their version of it, if not last year, already 2 years ago. This was kind of like the concept way back in the early 2000s. Great colorway, silver and red. It has those 5-spoke slotted wheels. So it's a neat piece. I like that one. Okay, we get into the controversial series. This is one of the most infamous series Matchbox has ever done. This was in 2004. They released a line called Hero City, and it was a total overhaul of pretty much all the branding they had ever done in the several decades leading up to this point. They decided, let's just make the most outlandish, kiddish, wild, kooky, quirky designs possible. They just had a field day with colorways not making any sense, just total opposite of realism, as we can see here with this one called Lockboxer. Because of its history and because of the infamy and the controversial nature of it, That's actually kind of why I like it. I think it's just a unique part of Matchbox history, even though it was very poorly received. I still think the designs are funny and quirky and kind of cute too. So that is why I have acquired a few to have in my collection. I got all these from Level M Diecast. Shout out to Brandon if you're watching this. I met up with him in his room at the Matchbox gathering, and he had a whole bin filled with these. I ended up picking 6 of them from his inventory that he had. This one's called Max Tractor. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's a farmer's hat on top of an actual tractor. It really doesn't make any sense, but I kind of like some of that oddball stuff, hence why it is in my Matchbox collection. Last from the Hero City era, we have Squawky Talkie. Again, just totally outlandish, doesn't make any sense, but I think it's kind of fun. So after this era, I mean, Hero City really precedes that golden age that a lot of collectors speak on. They love that sort of 2006 to 2011 time frame. That's where Matchbox got rid of this silly, kooky Hero City era and went just full on realism. So from 2006 to 2011, you get a lot of those more realistic models. I don't have too many from that era, believe it or not, but there's just a lot of good stuff that they pumped out during that time. Here we have the Mercedes-Benz Unimog. Kind of a John Deere colorway, right? I don't think it's actually John Deere, but you have that green and yellow, very synonymous with farming equipment. And this next one's a really cool piece. This is the Mitsubishi Triton. This is a multi-pack exclusive color. Love the livery, just great design. I believe Michael Heralda did this one. Just love the colorway, love the wheels as well. Those 6 spokes are perfect for this casting. Also has some of the equipment in the back there. And you have a tow hook as well. So believe it or not, this gets into kind of, we all have what we like. We all have our kind of specifics. Something I actually don't like all that much is a tow hook. Again, I love just simple, clean, beautiful design. And when we're talking about a 1/64 scale diecast, the tow hook just totally sticks out like a sore thumb for me. Again, I understand that it's for the play value, it's for the playability, it's for the interaction with these models. But as someone who primarily keeps them displayed on top of, just rolling around on my desk a little bit, I do prefer just that clean look. And I feel that tow hook just throws it off a little bit. Again, that could be totally disagreed by many of you. We all have our philosophies and what we gravitate towards. That's just something that kind of that bugged me a little bit. But I mean, of course, if you love that nature of being able to tow something, don't let that sway you away from wanting to collect a bunch with that particular feature on them. So that's the Mitsubishi Triton /L200. We then have the Target Red. This is the Holden Ute. It's a nice piece. I found this, I think, early 2024. And so then we get into the era where Matchbox kind of went to the Wild West again. We had that golden era from 2006 to 2011, but then from 2011 to like around 2019, I would say, they kind of went a little all over the place again, and we got casting such as this. This is called the Matchbox Coupe. Proportions are kind of absurd. Like it doesn't even really look all that good, but I do like this piece to have an example of sort of that 2011 to 2019 era where they just went a little all over the place again. They had just several different types of vehicles, not a whole lot of realism, but some realism. It was just kind of like, Matchbox is trying to find their footing again type of era. But I do think it's, again, quirky. It's an interesting design. I love anything that's unique, so figured that would be a fun one to have in my collection. So bear with me for a moment. We are going to flip this around and get to the back side. And by the way, if it hasn't been made clear yet, I do have all these stored in my Creative Options thread organizer by casting debut year. So as we'll see, we'll get into some more modern, some newer releases towards the bottom here. Make sure that's nice and centered for you, and we will keep moving on. Thanks again for tuning in. By the way, if you have made it this far, I appreciate it. Make sure you leave a comment, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. I am Contour Toy Cars. You can find me on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And let's keep moving on. So this is the food truck. I believe it's called Chowmobile 2. This livery is by Michael Heralda. Taco truck, love it. Who doesn't love tacos, especially on Tuesday? So that's a great piece. All plastic with a metal base. I know that's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think it's great. I think it's a really well thought out casting. We have one from my top 5. This is the Malibu Marauder. I have removed the tampos. Favorite part of this one is the back. We have these little boogie boards that they actually casted in, so it's not plastic. It is part of the metal, which I think is a great feature. And I just love the body lines. Great silhouette, very unique, very futuristic buggy kind of style. It's an awesome one. It's in my top 5. Next up is the BMW i3. BMW's one of their first attempts at an EV vehicle. This car does depreciate quite a bit, or has depreciated quite a bit over time. Just not a whole lot of popularity, not a whole lot of interest. But again, I love modern design, so kind of looks like an egg. I mean, a lot of the cars you see out on the roads now are getting more and more rounded, but I don't know, just something it almost feels like otherworldly. This particular car design, just very futuristic styling. I love that little blue stripe down there as well with the 10 spokes. So nice little piece resembling modern day traffic. Really, it's what Matchbox is so big on. What do you see on the road? You see commercial vehicles, you see semi trucks, you see just a whole plethora of different vehicles that are quote unquote real life versus something like Hot Wheels. They do an entirely different approach. They do much more outside the box, wild, crazy, hot rod style. They were born out of the custom car culture scene in California. That's what it's ingrained into their branding. Matchbox has gone with a much more sort of realistic approach with what I like to say some charm and some character with those British roots. So we have the International E-Star van. I love anytime they put just their logo on. I mean, it makes sense if you are going to make toy cars. Why not be a billboard on wheels shouting out your very own brand? So I love when they use their logo on castings such as that van. We have this Cadillac Escalade. Again, just another example of how impressive paint can be on a $1 model. Does it not look insane? I mean, I would pay $10 for this model, just how the paint looks alone. And I mean, the casting itself, great proportions, 10 out of 10 execution. We then move on to a Nissan Leaf. Another EV. And by the way, we are very well into the Mattel era at this point. So again, to recap, we had the Lesney era, the Universal era, the Tyco era, and we are now into Mattel. Next up is this Mercedes GLE Coupe in orange. Again, just simple, clean design, great execution, front and rear tampos as well. Then I have this Mini Cooper, gorgeous in red. And this is my Mattel Creations purchase. This is the Land Rover, what is this one? Defender 110 Gen 2, I think it's called. Land Rover Gen 2 Safari, another Michael Heralda deco. These surfboards up on top are removable. I've never taken them off before. Just love the look of how they are with it on, or with the surfboards on. And unique tire choice as well. Next up we have the Subaru SVX. This is from the Matchbox Collector Series. Beautiful teal color, premium wheels. If any of you follow Mr. John Lambert from Lamley Group, he does share that he actually likes more of the basic wheels over the premium wheels, and I tend to agree. I do think the execution on a $1 model wheels is, that 5-spoke in particular is gorgeous. I think they are a little bit better than these premium wheels, but hey, I mean, we don't have to buy premium for the wheels. We can buy it for several other factors. And I think they still look fine. Kind of like a lace wheel. Move on to this Nissan van. Another one with that tow hook that kind of bugs me a little bit. Again, just sticking out so far. It just takes away from this beautiful silhouette that we have otherwise with this Nissan van. But love the deco as well, Adventure Tours. And the color is a cool choice as well. And we have the more modern Land Rover. Another great color. We'll move on to this Tesla Roadster, kind of a satin finish almost. Look at that. Again, just really, really impressive. I would pay more than $1 for this. 100%. We then have this Fiat 500. We have the Audi TT Mark III in red. Audi TT Mark III in Turbo Blue is the official name. Next up is this McLaren 720S Spider. Look at that shine. We then have this Renault Megane EV. Best feature hands down on this one is the front fascia. Really unique headlight design, that little gold section too. Really, really looks good. We then have this Honda E. The Mazda RX-8, is it the 8? I believe it's 8. Yeah, 2004 Mazda RX-8. Mercedes AMG SL63. We have the Morgan Plus 4, a 2024 release. Oops, put this one in the wrong spot. And we finish off with a brand spanking new release. I just picked this up not even a week ago. This is the new Toyota Prius. Really, really sleek. I saw this one in person, the real life, 1/1 scale version. I mean, it looks great. It really, really good. It looks, I mean, it's quite aerodynamic, as you can see up in the front. And it just has a really great presence. Of course, Matchbox being Matchbox, they absolutely knocked this replica out of the park. So great to have in the collection. And with that, we are complete. So I'll bring these first two back in. And I hope this kind of gave you a good idea of the entire history. Way back when they were doing vehicles that fit inside a Matchbox, well, all of them fit inside a Matchbox, but they actually used Matchboxes. The Lesney era just had a lot of charm, a lot of character, a lot of realism, and a lot of collectability. And we get through all the different eras. We had that controversial Hero City era. We had the realism. We had some quirky models as well. And, at the end of the day, Matchbox, keep doing what you're doing. Really, really impressive stuff that they're pumping out. And I hope to just see continued success with the brand and a continued loyal following. So for now, I'm going to sign off. Thank you if you made it this far. Again, I'm Contour Toy Cars, and we'll see you next time.